I am not in any way trying to undermine your credibility or ability to get this job done. I just want to make sure that we as a body are not embarrassed at the end of the day, and you can understand that, I'm sure. What I would urge this council to do at this time is to keep in mind that we have the ability for professional services contracts for outside legal counsel if and when that ever becomes a situation. And I pledge as chairman of the rules, and I know my fellow members will pledge, to make sure that we keep this process on track. And if for any reason it is delayed, that we will address it immediately, not with emotion or not in a way to undermine anyone's credibility, but because it needs to be addressed. And so, because this is a discussion item, and there is no order before us, what I would ask is that before leaving here today, we have 6 of our council members here, 5 of whom are on the committee. Mr. Lumumba is here simply to observe, that Mr. Watkins get a date and time from each council member that he can meet with them and talk to them about the numbers, the situation, the maps, their concerns, their issues. I'm going to give you Monday at 10 a.m. in my office as my date, and I would urge y'all to give dates to him. And that we be provided by a week from Friday a schedule of public hearings that we can have, so we can get the show on the road. And I would just reserve the right to state that if anything is not going properly in this process, that we all continue to communicate with one another. Yes, Mr. Yard.
Well, I just want to say for the record that my position remains that we should rescind and move forward with selecting another vendor.
Mr. Watkins, I would like to ask that in setting those public hearings, that in addition to holding one here at City Hall, that we would hold a public hearing in each ward. And if you would get with me, I would like to suggest a place in Ward 3 to hold one of those public hearings.
I don't think we've heard from the full committee
About
how we proceed.
We have not heard from the full committee. You're correct. This is a discussion item. So I'm not sure exactly how we could hear from the full committee, but if you have a motion or a position.
I don't have a motion. What I have, I think that we should look to a consensus. I respect your position as chair, but also respect the position of each of the members of this committee as well. And if there's a consensus one way or the other, then I think that needs to be recorded.
I agree, and I have no problem going along with the will of this body. So I will begin with you, Mr. Yarborough.
I'll restate that I think it is my position that the responsible thing at this time is to rescind and move forward with the new vendor.
Mr. Tillman.
Mr. President, although it has been delayed, and everybody can take responsibility on the reason it was delayed, I'm not happy because it has been delayed, because I've been asking questions all along, not only amongst ourselves, legal, I call it the committee, and I also had a conversation with Mr. Watkins, who's at him, and he been, and I also had a conversation with Mr. Johnson, and we were at the same place for lunch last month, I believe. But having somebody really locally, knowing the city of Jackson, that's gone through this, and it's getting late in the day, I share everybody's sentiment, including the leadership of the Rules Committee. But at this point, I would rather not start all over again, if possible. Now, if we can get a true commitment, Mr. Watkins, that we're ready to move, and we will be moving as of Monday morning, as of today. I would like to meet with you Monday at 12 in my office, not the one in City Hall, my other office.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mr. Blunson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I heard my colleague, Mr. Tillman, said we shouldn't start all over. I don't know what we've done. We haven't done anything, so we don't have to worry about starting all over because we haven't done anything. Because I don't know, I'm sitting here and I'm waiting, and I'm about to have the same opinion my colleague, Mr. Yarber. Since we haven't done anything, maybe we might need to start all over and get somebody to get something on the job. Because I think we had every time for anybody to do something. Mr. Yarber, I don't think you would be that slow with us, would you?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blunson. Ms. Stokes.
Again, I'd like to restate my position. We've waited too long to get started. We have a contract, we have a vendor, and Mr. Watkins has assured us of their ability to perform. Legal has addressed the issue about the contract, and it's done. Let's move forward.
Mr. Lumumba, I know you're not a member of the committee, but you are a member of our council, and so therefore I'm going to ask for you to provide us with your input as well.
I think we should continue with the present vendor, and if we feel we need to closely monitor the process, we should do it. I would also remind the council of this, that actually, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not trying to take any personal credit or anything, but it was me that very early in the process I kept knocking on the door asking when are we going to get this redistricting thing started. So not only did the vendor have some unexplained lapses, but in the very beginning, and one of the reasons I was so concerned about it was because I knew we were about to lose a council person. And so we didn't really put our foot on the pedal, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as we could. And I'm not blaming any individual council person for that. Sometimes people get wrapped up into other concerns, and the motor that's necessary to do something doesn't get started for whatever reason. I'm not even sure we knew whose responsibility it was initially to get it started. At some point, the president decided to put it in the hands of the Rules Committee. But that happened months before we actually started. So I think that we all, like Councilman Tillman said, bear some responsibility. But I will join Mr. Yarber in not tolerating any other delay. But I do believe we should move on.
All right, I have one question for the two dissenting members, and that is, if the contract were to not be or to be rescinded, and someone else was selected, who would be your selection?
Well, everybody's talking about local and fast. I mean, CLQDD is ready to go. I think they've even lowered what they originally proposed to us. They have our numbers. They actually were the ones who gave us our original numbers in the beginning. Well, I just speak for myself. I was partial initially to Arc Bridge, but wanted to give the nod locally, and that was the premise of my abstention. So,
Mr. Blunson. Mr. Blunson.
Yeah, let me. I heard somebody say that it was given to the Rules Committee. Now, Councilman Stokes was over chairman of the Rules Committee when I gave this to the Rules Committee. And Councilman Stokes was the first man that brought up about the redistricting needs to be done as chairman of the Rules Committee. So I just want to make that clear. Now, along with Mr. And I don't know whether it's being honored, Mr. Chairman, but I like to hear from somebody from the Central Mississippi Planning and just ask a question to us.
Mr. Watkins, you're relieved at this time, and you were not recognized at this time. Mr. Watkins, you're relieved.
No one is on the agenda today about Central Mississippi. What is the relevance of it?
Well, we're about to find out. Someone from CMPDD. You're about to lose your vote, Ms. Stokes, if you walk out, and you may regret that because it may affect the decision here today. Your ward is losing its voice. Ward 3 is losing its voice. All right. Yes, sir.
Yes, Chuck Hart, JS Director.
Before you let him speak, you asking a question. You know, if it was rescinded about your choices.
Yes, sir.
And all the person spoke to that is Councilman Gamble.
What I asked the two members that were saying that they would like to rescind the contract and tell me who they would select.
Okay.
Because the reason I'm asking this, Mr. Tillman, is because it appears, or it appeared when we had all 5 members of the council here, that I had the deciding vote. And I'm taking this vote very, very, very seriously. And so my biggest concern is that if we did rescind the contract, that we would be back where we started, not having a consensus candidate to support in terms of who would do the job. Which as a result is why, as I indicated, that I was leaning toward the position of you, Ms. Stokes, and Mr. Lumumba. And I have no idea why someone would walk out of a committee meeting that's being handled fairly and trying to give everyone his due. But Mr. Blunson was asked that question, and he said he wanted to ask CMPDD some questions before he could state his answer to that question. So I'm honoring his request. Does that make sense? All right, Mr. Blunson.
I want to just ask a couple questions. I think you've been sitting here, you've been listening to the dialogue. If this had been given to you at the time, what would have been your track record on this?
We're working with a lot of cities right now, and when we get a signed contract, we go to work. I feel certain we could have had...
You heard the attorney stated when the contract was submitted.
Yes, and
To the person that I voted for. You heard the attorney say, you heard how long it took the contract to come back and the red lines and all that. You heard what she stated, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm trying to see what would be your track record if this was in your hand.
Well, like I say, certainly we could have had some proposals already before the board. There would be no trouble there. We could move as fast as the council wanted us to. Making sure we meet all the legal requirements. We need to get some guidelines adopted. Once we have some guidelines to guide the process, we could meet within a matter of days and start drawing plans. And we've got the data, we've got the software, we've got personnel, we're ready to go to work.
Now, it's my understanding 10 years ago, didn't you also work in every district of the council at that time?
We did.
You did?
We did.
Work along with another person, right?
We did? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, you may.
Who was the person?
That was Mr. Johnson.
Same person that's
Yes.
got the contract now?
Yes.
Right.
And if I could remind the council, I made the amendment that we follow the plan of 10 years ago where we would have Mr. Johnson and CMPD work together jointly. But who's bragging? Question on to Ms. Joyner. It has been stated by Councilman Lumumba that I should recuse myself from anything dealing with CMPDD because I'm a member of the board of directors. Now, my understanding is that I'm a member of the board of directors on behalf of the city of Jackson, and that they're a quasi-public entity, and that there's no pecuniary interest or no reason for me to be pro-CMPDD or not. I may have a bad experience on the board of directors. I may not like the food they serve at the lunches. But What is your opinion on that?
Wait, and can I ask something? Because does the mayor serve on that as well?
He does.
So how would he even sign a contract?
Legal.
Monica Joyner, Office of the City Attorney. As the council is well aware, I do not like making giving opinions off the cuff with all facts not at hand. But typically, if an official is serving on behalf of the City of Jackson and are not receiving payment for that service, or will receive no pecuniary benefit, or their family will not receive any pecuniary benefit, then there is no potential ethical violation there.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask a question to all the remaining members of the committee. Mr. Yarber, and then Mr. Tillman, Mr. Blunson. If we move forward with the vendor that we have, will you give me your undivided promises that if we are seeing trouble signs, that we will swiftly move to hire outside legal counsel who can assist, facilitate, and participate to make sure this job is done properly?
I cannot, because I don't know what the budgetary restrictions would be on that. Actually, it wouldn't. At this point, it's not a conversation for me to have based on my position.
Fair answer. Mr. Tillman?
Mr. Chairman, if you will, I see another.
I'm going to let legal talk after I hear from my council members.
I'm not sure about that outside counsel, but if it's, I don't know. I've been really thinking that if we move forward, should we move forward with the present minimum only, or should we try to get another vendor as part of the activity from that point forward? And I truly like the vendor Artridge, because they're in the DC area and they had worked with the Department of Justice in this same area, and they could be a positive force if we had any questions or problems. They could be right there to clear it up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blunson.
Well, I still stand by my colleague.
Okay. All right, Mr. Anderson.
James Anderson, City Attorney's Office. In reference to commitments to bring in outside counsel, or what would happen if there's some dissatisfaction with the vendor, I feel obligated to point out that the vendor was chosen by way of an order. In order for there to be some outside counsel or new consultants or additional consultants brought in as a result of some unforeseen circumstances, it will require a new order be issued. And so the commitments of counsel, of council members, while well-intentioned at the moment, would not be binding on them at that time.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you. You're leading to my point. All right. We're about to close this meeting. This is what I'm going to tell you. I'm offering a compromise to the committee.
I don't want to stop you and close the meeting, but my question is, I can ask it to you or I can ask it to
All right, go ahead. Let's get it done.
The question is, if you had a new order, I can't remember, did this order require a public hearing, or do we have to have another public? We didn't.
No,
Okay.
thank you. All right, I'm about to offer a compromise.
I know you are, but I need to ask legal another question. You ready to go? You talked the first 15 minutes, brother.
Okay.
All right. Legal. This is what I need to know. Will there be a need for us to reissue an RFP, or can we go with the choosing between the two remaining consultants?
Monica Joyner, also the City Attorney. No, you will not have to re-advertise. The only way you would have to advertise is if you would try to go outside of the 2 proposals that you did receive other than the one that was chosen.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up on that. So, all the vendors that came and made a presentation to us, we still get RFP, we don't have to worry about RFP for any of those vendors that we've already heard.
No, you will be held to those proposals that were submitted at that time.
Okay.
All right, and actually, I'm glad y'all did ask the question, because Mr. Blunson never got to answer. He asked these questions to CMPD, but never actually answered that question. Because again, consensus is what is important to me. Councilman Yarborough mentioned CMPDD. Now we have Mr. Tillman mentioning Arc Bridge. This is my concern. This is why I have issues with even a compromise, is reaching a consensus. Mr. Blunson, what is your preference of an additional vendor if they are replacing or in addition to the current vendor?
I think I made that clear, haven't I?
What?
He was,
See.
said he was going with his colleague.
Oh, okay.
Y'all.
Oh, okay.
Colleague, y'all.
Okay. All right. Okay, this is the compromise I'm offering. My compromise that I'm offering is that we retain the current vendor under contract, but that we ask legal to prepare an order to additionally hire, as was done 10 years ago, CMPDD. You will have to discuss this with the mayor's office, and they will have to determine whether or not they can find the budget for this to be done. But I can assure you that whatever the cost is, it will be worth it, because getting it done and getting it done right is appropriate.
I'm a little confused.
How are you confused?
You just let him done it for the court.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, but Mr. Tillman, I'd love to help you, but the concern about having someone from the D.C. area is that we do, I do believe that we need folks that are here that we could call them moment's notice and get in their car and come down here and work with us on maps or whatever. That's my concern. So I apologize. I can't help everybody, but I'm trying. Legal, you got a comment about that?
I do. Monica Jonah, Office of the City Attorney. We have to keep in mind that if that is the consensus of the council, the first concern is that DL Consultants has to be in agreement, as well as whoever the additional consultant is, in splitting that particular or compromising or working together, because that was not the intent or the
Well, I can tell you that before I offered my amendment last time, that I asked both of them personally, and they both said they were okay with it. CMPDD's nodding their head. Mr. Watkins, do y'all have any problem with working together with another group that you worked with in the past? If you would be retained and continue and also work with CMPDD?
I'm just one person that is a part of that and not primary.
I understand, but...
I wouldn't attempt to give an answer without that being discussed.
All right.
and that's a concern, because intents to change and opinions can change over time. So that's the first issue. The
But here's the thing: we hire who we hire, and if they don't want to get in the same sandbox and play, then that's just a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of us. So, what's your second point?
The second is going to be that we do need to present an order at the next council meeting, or whatever council meeting you also desire, put in writing the intent of the council, whether it's to rescind, whether it's to join.
And I think that's what I stated. I said that's what I said. That y'all would prepare an order.
Well, I have to be clear on what we're doing.
I'm trying to make it clear.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Has a contract been out there? It has not been signed by the mayor. We're not sure. Nobody can tell us at this point whether it's been signed or not signed.
He was waiting on his body to move. I'm pretty sure he is not signed a per conversation that
No,
we had.
it has not been signed. Legally, where we stand versus had it been signed by the mayor.
Before you answer that, let me make sure I'm making my compromise clear. I'm asking the mayor to sign the contract with D.L. Johnson Consultants, and I'm asking that we add an order also hiring as additional vendor and counsel for this project, CMPDD, so that basically there won't be any more dealing with D.L. Johnson Consultants. They're going to be hiring. And then there will be an order that goes before this body for next week that adds CMPDD that will be voted up or down.
I understand the consensus of you as the chairman. I wanted to make sure, because you opposing it as a compromise, but we have not heard from the other members. As your legal counsel, I have to make sure that I put that out there as we continue discussion.
Thank you.
Because I don't want it to come back as it has before and say that we are not following up as the legal.
I understand.
Doing what
Okay.
we need to do on our end. So
Okay.
I have to put all that out there.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make sure. I love my fellow members. I'm going to make sure that it's a consensus, because I know this for a fact. If it isn't a consensus, I got to decide and vote. So hopefully we can find some compromise, but that's going to be up to the body. So, Mr. Yarber, are you okay with the compromise?
Well, look, I don't think compromise is the point. I think consensus is the point. And I think at this point, I think the compromise may be premature. Because you have to decide and vote, then decide.
Well, I'm trying to find a compromise.
No. Here's my proposal. So you said you had to decide and vote twice. I'm about to make you decide. Here is my proposal. We rescind and we bring on CMPDD as the consultant for this project. Decide.
All right. I'm going to let everybody speak before I decide.
Oh, you're talking about consensus as the rules committee, or consensus as the entire council itself. Because it has to leave the committee and go to the full council.
That's right. You're right. All right, Mr. Blunson. You're going to echo your comment. You leave it too? All right, Mr. Lemon.
No. I'm still with my colleague, Brother Yarber.
All right,
I'm still with him. Okay.
All right, Mr. Lemon.
I guess what we're talking about, what Mr. Yarber is asking you to make an informal position on what you feel, because this is a discussion item, so you can't vote. Right.
But well, you're exactly right, except that what legal is asking is for the consensus of the committee to provide them direction as to how to proceed moving forward. And the consensus, as of right now, well, actually it was 2-2. As of right now, is 2-1. But nonetheless, I still got to decide and vote, because if I vote with Mr. Tillman, then it's dead. So, for whatever reason, Ward 3 doesn't have a voice anymore, but nonetheless, the votes will still shake out as they shake out. Here's my concern. I have stated from the beginning, I desire to be fair. I have stated from the beginning that I know the capabilities of CMPDD, and I believe that they have the best capabilities and the best track record for success. The problem is that this continues to be a showcase for drama. And if I could get Mr. Tillman's support,
I'll tell you what. If they agree, they did it as good spirit and partnership 10 years ago, and if they agree to split it, got my vote.
all right, well, Mr. Yarber, that still doesn't give us a consensus, because Mr. Yarber is not for that. So, Mr. Blunson, do you agree with Mr. Tillman, or are you still with your colleague over on the right?
With his colleague, Mr. Yarber. Well, I was just colleague for you.
Yeah, I thought I had made myself clear. You know, we got this thing going back and forward. No, you didn't come by. But I think that I can speak to it because I voted for the original people we have. I voted there. We have not been successful in getting anything done. And for that reason, if it had been Frank Brunson holding on, had not done anything, Frank Brunson should have been kicked out. Somebody else should have been put on. Just as